Good morning. You're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Dave Meberg, the president and CEO of Consolidated Flooring. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Kemp. How are you?
I'm good. We were together this past weekend in Louisville at Starnet's fall meeting. We'll get to that in just a second. And also, we want to talk about your 80th anniversary. Your grandfather and his brother started this business in 1943. Let's talk about that in a minute as well. First, tell us how business is doing right now.
Overall, business has been generally positive this year. We're hitting all our marks in the markets that we serve. Although we were a little concerned about the second half, it's turned out to be really quite successful for us. So we're doing well, and I have no complaints so far about 2023.
You're up there in New York and also operations in Chicago, and you're union affiliated. What sectors are performing the best for you now?
I think it separates by region. You know, up here in New York, we've had a lot of public space and public sector work going and really carrying us through the last couple of years. In Chicago, we perform really strong in the K through 12 education segment. So I would say, depending on the region we're operating in, you know, we're fueled by different factors, but both of those segments really have kept us going. We look to see some continued growth in both of them.
All right. Well, the Starnet meeting, as I mentioned, was this past weekend, and Steve Cloud, new chairman, it's his first full meeting. Tell us about any takeaways from being with the group.
Well, I think there was a lot more optimism in the group than pessimism, for sure. You know, the market going into 2024, again, depending on where you are regionally, looks a little bit different. But I think everybody was generally positive about where we see things going. I mean, this year the co-op has been operating really strongly. I mean, our purchasing volume across many of the different segments are either holding firm or up. So those are really good indicators of the performance of our membership. You know, Steve has taken over and is going to guide us through these times. He took over for Chuck Bodie, who'd been in the seat for a number of years, and Steve and Chuck worked very closely toward the end of Chuck's tenure. It's been a seamless transition, and I think things are going to move right along as smoothly as they always have.
And you actually are on the board of Starnet, right?
I am on the board. I'm on my second stint on the board, and right now I just recently elected treasurer of the organization, a role in which I'm enjoying. You know, most of the administrative work is done by a great staff that we have. You know, we're just there watching over the books.
Well, let's talk about this big milestone, 80 years. You know, Floor Focus did an article in our October 2018 issue, and we highlighted your 75th anniversary and went through the story of your grandfather and his brother getting started during the war and putting in battleship linoleum. And then when the war was over, you got started in the workroom, and it's just built from there. And, you know, it's interesting, 80 years. You know, I don't know what the stats are on how many companies make it 80 years, but that's a long time to have success, but isn't it?
Yeah, and as far as family businesses go, only about 12% of them make it into the third generation of family ownership and leadership. So we've been real proud that we've made it this far. I, along with my cousins, are the third generation leaders. We've had one fourth generation member in who decided they didn't want to stick with the business, but now we have our second fourth generation member in, my son, who's just starting his career here, and we're hoping it resonates with him. He's enthusiastic about the process so far, and we're optimistic that he's going to be in a position someday to take the reins over here. With all the consolidation going on in the industry right now, we're really committed to family ownership. It's a source of pride for us, and it's our tradition, which is one of our key values, is recognizing our tradition and honoring our tradition. You know, my legacy when I choose to leave here one day, I hope, is that I stewarded the business to a point where we can get to 100 years of private family ownership. So that's 20 years off still, and we'll see if we can make it.
Okay, let me just mention a few things. You know, being family owned, you can take the long view. You don't have investors that you have to satisfy, on a short-term basis. And some things you've done recently. You sat actually in the Starnet meeting and talked about your upgraded facilities. So you spent several $1 million right before COVID investing in your headquarters in New York. That's paid off. You've changed your name. You were Consolidated Carpet for so many years, and now you're Consolidated Flooring. you're taking the right steps to get the next generation ready to take the reins at the right time, right?
Yeah, we certainly hope so. I know we just spent a lot of time speaking about the showroom headquarters move in New York, but we also moved our entire operations platform in Chicago to a brand new warehouse and invested in some beautiful space out there as well. Prior to our ownership, they were operating out of 3 or 4 different spaces. It was much more inefficient than it is today. So we believe in having things organized under one roof, good working conditions for all our associates. And I think the performance of our Chicago team has validated the investment we've made out there as well. As you touched, we don't take the short view, we take the long view. We can tolerate having a bad quarter here and there without being concerned about, how our investors will react. We're definitely trying to position the company for the future, and all the decisions that we make here on the financial side of the ledger are geared to long-term success.
One other thing you do that I need to mention is that in addition to lead this organization, you also are active in the relationship with the union, and you have a key role with union folk in the New York area, right?
I've been active sitting on the board of the pension fund for a number of years. I can't believe it's well over 25 years right now. And, through that affiliation, I also became involved in the board of Install, and I co-chair of Install right now. We've had a great partnership with the union in our 2 main markets here in New York and in Chicago, both union towns. It's not without struggle. I think we work together, but costs are always such a factor in these marketplaces. And working as a union contractor, we're always a little bootstrapped with our cost models. I have found, though, that my cooperative relationships with the unions have certainly fueled our success, and we hope to keep that going for years to come.
All right, Dave. Well, congratulations on this 80th anniversary milestone, and thanks for spending time with our listeners. Again, been talking to Dave Meberg, the president and CEO with Consolidated Flooring, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.